Good evening, Westlake families. I hope that this video message finds everyone healthy and safe. Let me begin this evening first by thanking everyone in the school community for being patient while we navigate the challenging realities associated with the ongoing pandemic. My hope was to get this video message out to families earlier this evening, but true to form, there was a document that was released from TEA late this afternoon that deserves some consideration prior to me making the final edits to this message. I've tried to be concise in the creation of tonight's message. Tonight, I want to introduce to Westlake families the multiple plans we are considering for the beginning of the next school year. Over the next 5 weeks, you will receive communication from me on either Tuesday evenings or Wednesday mornings to give you updates related to the start of school. As communicated earlier, we are currently operating with the idea that we will be open to receive students on Wednesday, August 12th. I will talk more about this proposed start date later in tonight's message. Let's begin. Over the past 6 weeks, we have been working with 3 different options for the next school year. The first option, regular face-to-face learning with students and teachers in the building. The second option, a modified distance learning program where students would receive instruction at home. The third option, a hybrid model, which essentially would have been a blend between the face-to-face and distance learning programs. While the discussion of each of the plans continued, the idea that there would be one model that would meet the needs and sensitivities for all Westlake families slowly began to move towards giving Westlake families the opportunity to choose between either our face-to-face program or our modified distance learning program. And in fact, Westlake will be surveying parents via a telephone survey that will be completed on Thursday and Friday of this week. I will talk more about that later as well. Let's talk about the plans. The first option for families to consider is our traditional face-to-face instruction. Westlake is deeply committed to providing face-to-face instruction to all of its students. The face-to-face program would mean that students would be on the Westlake campus on a daily basis to receive instruction from their classroom teachers. As you would expect, there will have to be many modifications and precautions to ensure that our students, parent community, faculty, and staff all remain healthy and safe. What follows are some of the changes that will go into effect when teachers and students return to the building. Faculty, staff, and students will have their temperature taken prior to entering the school building each morning. Faculty, staff, and students will use hand sanitizer before entering the learning hallways of the lower school and middle school. Westlake is making special considerations regarding class size to ensure that students can be appropriately distanced while receiving direct instruction. All school chapel and large assemblies are being revised or reimagined or rescheduled until a later date when we can run those events safely. Hand washing for students will happen on a regular schedule. Hand sanitizer stations will be available at more locations around the campus. Bathrooms will be cleaned at least 3 times a day. Bathrooms will be continually stocked with hand soap and paper towels in working dispensers. Daily classroom cleaning with safe approved sanitizers. Adjustment to the schedule to limit student movement during the day. Regular sanitation and cleaning of playground equipment. Students will lunch in their classrooms. Water fountains have been turned off, and 3 bottle filling stations have been installed on the campus. Individual student supplies are being ordered rather than operating with shared supplies in the classroom. There are additional things that we will be doing, and I can tell you that our cleaning protocols and safety plan will be something that is continuously being evaluated and changed to ensure that we are doing a great job keeping our students, families, and faculty and staff members safe. The second option for our families to consider is our modified distance learning program. Before I talk about the modified part of the distance learning program, I want to remind parents that the distance learning plan that everyone experienced in the spring was very much a response to a crisis. Parents, all of you did an amazing job doing your part to deliver instruction to your child at the end of the last year. However, the big takeaway for Westlake in regards to our crisis response distance learning program was that it required a lot of time and supervision on the part of the parents. Our modified distance learning program for the upcoming fall semester is designed to require much less of supervising parents. Now, of course, as students are younger, the amount of supervision or learning assistance children need does increase. Parents should rest assured that our amazing Westlake teachers are ready to partner and provide individualized learning support as necessary as we go through the fall semester. So those are the two plans that parents will have the opportunity to consider when we survey later this week. Parents, as you are aware, the ongoing pandemic situation is in constant flux. This week's survey is an opportunity for me to gain an understanding of how Westlake needs to prepare to serve families according to the learned parent attitudes and preferences. We will conduct a second survey as we move closer to our actual start date. Of course, there are some caveats to this entire discussion. The first of which we need to talk about is August 12th as a start date. When the August 12th start date was calendared in early June, Fort Bend and Harris counties were reporting a 7-day running average of the daily confirmed COVID cases of 111 and 275 cases per day, respectively. The reported 7-day running average of new cases reported as of July 6 for Fort Bend and Harris County is now 668 and 1,127, respectively. With that being said, I am very concerned about the high number of daily confirmed COVID cases, and I want to communicate to parents that Westlake may consider moving our start date back. I am encouraged by the modest improvements that have been reported over the past 3 days, but I want to be clear to parents that we may consider postponing the start of the school year. The second caveat to this discussion is Westlake is working with our accreditation agency and the State of Texas Office of Health and Human Services to acquire the ability to operate our pre-K3, pre-K4, and kinder classrooms as a recognized daycare rather than the current school designation. The product students and parents would receive would remain the same. However, by making this change, Westlake will be able to provide pre-K3, pre-K4, and kinder families continuous child care in the event the state of Texas or Fort Bend County implements another stay-at-home order. So where do we go from here? Well, as talked about earlier, beginning on this Thursday, July 9th, Westlake families will begin receiving a phone call from a Westlake employee who will conduct a brief survey about which of the two plans you are most comfortable choosing at this time. Parents will also be asked for input regarding the possibility of a delayed start. Parents will also have the opportunity to ask questions that will be distilled into an FAQ database so I can be sure to answer as many questions as I'm able to. The spirit of the survey is for me to capture parent attitudes in regards to the back-to-school plans I have presented this evening. While I'm interested in knowing parent attitudes towards a possible delayed start, it is important for parents to understand that I will ultimately make the decision that I believe is safest for our students, their families, and the faculty and staff. The July 14th communication, I will summarize the information that was learned from our survey, and I'll explain how that data will be influencing our return to school plans. In addition, I will also be introducing our new faculty and staff members. Despite the challenges of the ongoing pandemic, this has been a truly amazing hiring season for Westlake. We have some really great and amazing new faculty and staff members to introduce. The July 21st communication is important because if there is going to be a change to the start of school date, it will be communicated on July 21st. From that point forward until we start school, parents, you will hear from me on either Tuesday evenings or Wednesday mornings. I recently began a book titled The Red Sea Rules, the well-known story about the Israelites being led by Moses, who retreats into a valley flanked on both sides by mountains. The Red Sea laid before the nation of Israel, and Pharaoh's armies were closing in from behind. I have to imagine that many of the Israelites were afraid and felt trapped, but it's important for us to remember that situation is exactly where God told Moses to lead the nation of Israel. And once they were there and they were trapped, that's when God parted the Red Sea and God's people walked on dry ground to safety. Parents, I understand there are many aspects of the ongoing pandemic that represent potential points of disagreement. With that being said, my encouragement to everyone is to be reminded that God has led us here and He will lead us out. This pandemic certainly represents a challenge for our school community, but there is no reason why Westlake shouldn't emerge from this pandemic safely on the other side, stronger, with all of us on dry ground. Thank you and good night.